Malcolm Turnbull's promising a serious and humble review of the message voters have sent his government in this weekend's by-elections. Within the coalition, there's already pressure to walk away from future big business tax cuts as part of a policy reset for the general election. Voters across all 5 seats stuck solidly with sitting members or parties on Super Saturday. The 3 Labor candidates scrubbed out of Parliament as dual citizens are all coming back in again. And in Perth, the ALP retained that seat too after the retirement of its former member. From tiny to almost double digits, Labor secured swings towards it in all 4 seats after preferences. And in Mayo, Rebecca Sharkey secured a 3% swing in her comeback victory. In a moment, we'll cross to our chief political correspondent, Andrew Probyn in Canberra, to assess the fallout from last night. And we'll look at what the Longman result might mean for other marginal seats in Queensland. But first, Greg Jennett takes us through what politicians have heard so far from almost 500,000 Australians who voted.
Super Saturday turned to same old Sunday.
Look at the 2 colours. Yeah. Blue team, red team.
Same candidate, same leader, and same endless campaigning. Of the 4 seats that fell back into Labor hands this weekend, Longman stands out.
We think Susan Lam's been re-elected after a disqualification. She looks like she's won the Longman by-election.
One Nation's vote shredded the coalitions, affirmed Bill Shorten's policy direction and his confidence.
I'm listening to real people, and that has fired me right up. If Malcolm Turnbull thinks that he's just going to keep offering us more of the same, well, then I think he'll pay an electoral price for that.
You're a lame duck Prime Minister.
There's no basis for saying that at all.
One standard by-election swing in just 1 seat is Malcolm Turnbull's analysis.
There is nothing remarkable about it at all.
But if core coalition policies, especially another $35 billion in further corporate tax cuts, don't register with voters now, could they be reworked?
We will be carefully considering the analysis of the by-elections, but I can assure you we will remain committed to the strong national economic plan.
Within coalition ranks, exasperation over the 2-year-old stalled tax plans growing, and it's even acknowledged publicly.
Selling company tax cuts for small and medium enterprises is a lot easier than selling them for larger companies.
For now, the government's sticking with its plan to put the tax cuts back before the Senate another time. But after that, its fate is uncertain. So while costly and disruptive, dual citizenships and Super Saturday in particular have sharpened an awareness in the coalition that a reboot may be in order. It has about 8 months left to complete it. If not, scenes of non-Liberal elation from coast to coast will make for a sorrowful Saturday. Next time around. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Canberra.
Our chief political correspondent Andrew Probyn joins us from Parliament House. Andrew, the 5 by-elections have delivered a status quo result, but does that mean nothing's changed?
Well, I think you'll see one change immediate, and there's going to be no more talk of an early election. If the government went to an election on these sorts of results, it would face catastrophe. So I think you can just about lock in a May election next year. Now, Bill Shorten, his leadership has firmed, his doubters have been silenced. Labor also believes that it's been vindicated on the various positions it's had on education, health, hospitals and tax. And indeed, if you were to view the by-elections as a litmus test on either side's policies, you'd have to say that Labor has got the upper hand.
Malcolm Turnbull says Bill Shorten's got nothing to celebrate because Labor merely achieved a conventional swing in a by-election. But are there consequences for the Prime Minister?
Well, I think there will be. As one Liberal put it to me, the Prime Minister's response simply can't be business as usual, that things must change. Now, I've spoken to quite a few coalition MPs around the nation, and they're saying that they want to see changes on company tax in particular. They don't want the coalition to go to the next election promising tax cuts for big banks. They want it focused on small and medium-sized businesses with perhaps bigger tax cuts delivered faster. Now, we also have some concerns from the coalition MPs when it comes to the swing that we saw in Longman, 4%. Now, that size of swing would see 7 seats fall in Queensland alone, including the seat of Peter Dutton in Dixon. And the Liberal MPs are simply saying if Malcolm Turnbull doesn't listen up, he's going to lose big. But we've now got more from Chris O'Brien in Longman on how it all went there.
At the Caboolture country markets, Longman voters were surprised at the size of Susan Lamb's win.
Well, it should have been a lot closer. Liberal are flaming it. Oh, I won't say what they are, but yeah, they're not right.
It's all over for now for Big Trev Ruthenberg, who suffered a big swing of 9%. He'll have another go at the general election, to his wife's horror.
We've never, I think, ever thought about divorce, but I think murder was on the line.
But the LNP will obviously have to do something differently, and not only in Longman, because Malcolm Turnbull is staring at a stark prospect in the Sunshine State. The LNP has 7 other seats in Queensland on margins of less than 4%. Capricornia, Ford, Flynn, Petrie, Dixon, Dawson and Bonner.
If this swing was replicated across Queensland, I mean, Bill Shorten would be Prime Minister just in from Queensland alone. I think no seat under 4% on the LNP side is safe in Queensland.
LNP insiders are worried, but not panicking yet. They'll wait to crunch all the Longman numbers and try to shrug it off as a typical anti-government by-election bash-up.
We had a Labor Party that was cashed up with union support, spending an enormous amount of money in the final week.
They're a funny old mob, the LNP, aren't they? They spent 6 or 8 weeks talking up their book, saying how well they were going to do. Now they sort of want to complain that they said Labor tried too hard and we didn't try hard enough.
Adding to the LNP woes, One Nation showed again it's a threat in Queensland, with Pauline Hanson's party grabbing almost 17% of the Longman vote.
I'm not going to lie, I'd always like to see more, the more the merrier for me, but the party's absolutely ecstatic. It's been a great result for One Nation, a 78% increase in our primary vote.
But not content with taking votes from the LNP, unpredictable preferences by One Nation voters means Labor can't relax either. Having underspent the major parties in Longman, One Nation can probably afford a parking ticket, then hit the road for the general election. Chris O'Brien, ABC News, Caboolture.